Good day, everyone. Welcome to our live webinar, Tech Learn, an introduction to Windows Virtual Desktop. In this episode of our Tech Learn series, we are joined by industry experts as we talk about Windows Virtual Desktop and how virtualization can help organizations secure remote work. With remote work here to stay, IT practitioners and business owners should become more vigilant in ensuring data security and business continuity. Since the onset of the global pandemic, some companies are now implementing skeletal workforce, having only 30 to 50% of their employees working in the office. This has caused productivity to plummet and security risks to grow in proportion. And that is why we invited our speakers to talk about Windows Virtual Desktop and how it would help organizations stay productive and secure. We are joined by Jude Pereira, Infrastructure Services Manager at Tech One Global. Jude is a Microsoft certified trainer and a seasoned expert in infrastructure and cloud services. He has been in the industry for almost a decade, helping businesses move to virtualized and cloud IT environments. We also have Ryan Nguyen, Cloud Solutions Architect at Microsoft. Ryan is a technical solutions professional and is a cloud solutions architect from Microsoft with a decade of expertise in web strategy, Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security, or EMS, and Windows Virtual Desktop. Hi, guys. How are you doing today? Doing good?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Sounds good. What about you, Jude? Staying safe?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for the introduction. And good morning to everyone in Sri Lanka, and good afternoon to everyone in Singapore and other regions.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we have a really exciting conversation ahead of us. So let's get started. All right. Now, we're talking about Windows Virtual Desktop, and not a lot of people are probably familiar with this right now. So let's just talk about that real quick. What is Windows Virtual Desktop and how does it work? Jude, would you mind taking this one first?
Isra, thank you. So considering WVD, so WVD is actually born in the cloud. Previously, if you take organizations, what they were using was either RDS or other solutions such as Citrix VDI, VMware, Microsoft VDI as well. So main objective of such a solution is to have your organizational data in your organization itself without leaving, and you are being able to access through either remote desktop service via remote desktop or remote application. So the objective of WVD is to simplify this entire architecture, because if you take RDS solution, the architecture itself is quite huge. So you need to invest on lots of hardware. So the capex is way too high. And the infrastructure, of course, you have multiple servers, multiple solutions integrated with that. But if you take Windows Virtual Desktop, WVD, you don't have that much of complexity in your hand. So as an administrator, it is quite easy to maintain a solution, an entire virtualized solution in the cloud itself. So I think we can have Ryan to go deep into this because he's totally into WVD. Ryan?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So just simple definition from Microsoft is like that is the desktop and application virtualization service. When you have the Microsoft, we provide the management service for your RDS service, right? But moreover than that is it help you with kind of the strategy that we mentioned recently about a cloud PC, when you don't have to rely more on the hardware side, device side, right? When you can utilize the capacity of your environment to provide maximize productivity and to the end user, especially when they working from home, right? Yeah, so that is the Windows Virtual Desktop.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, guys. Now, Question though, like why do organizations need Windows Virtual Desktop, and exactly what problems does it solve? Ryan, I would like to I would like to ask you to take this question first.
Yeah. So firstly, when we think about the new solution, which is the Windows Virtual Desktop just launched about like September 2019, right? So from Microsoft side, we want to bring the best end user experience across the device, right? It's not just about like you using a Windows device or you using a macOS device or Android or iOS device or even your iPad, right? How you can um, improve the productivity even you work on across device. That is the first thinking about this. So
Mhm,
and also the customer think because we get the feedback and we're listening to the feedback and we gather the insight from the customer. They want to have the best and end user experience, especially virtualization experience, right? So that is first. And moreover than that, when you go to work remotely, it's not COVID, but it's also like a doctor or frontline worker in the banking, a telco things.
mhm,
So to simplify the management and also configuration when they do a lot of things and still keep enhance the security. So that is the second thing that the customer and Michael share the same thought about like, hey, when we think about VDI or Windows Virtual Desktop. And when it's come, the most kind of sensitive thing is like the cost, right? The price, the cost. Every time we think about it, every time we want to help the customer to achieve more about the solution or technology, right? So
mhm,
we need to come down into the investment, right?
mhm,
And the way that we simplify the infrastructure offer, licensing and also the labor cost that we consider on the TCO, make us become one of the best VDI or RDS offer in the world with WVD. And the last thing is like we have that decade technology of VDI, right? It's slow,
mhm, mhm,
it's not convenient, right? And it's not support well with the Office 365 or your Outlook simple, right? So WVD bring the best enhancement and experience in terms of the Office 365 client and also the Microsoft Teams, which is just released recently, right, on a spring release
mhm.
on the audio and video support. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Jude, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes. So talking about WVD, especially during this COVID duration, now everyone in our organization, especially in Sri Lanka, what we can see is organizations are quickly moving on to solutions where they can work from home. The entire solution needs to be secure because that's
Mhm,
the key strategy that an organization might need to go for. And we'll be, of course, talking about security in a while. And
mhm,
apart from that, we need to make sure that whatever the device that the users have, that needs to be supported for this solution. So coming up with a virtualization or remote desktop strategy, these are the things that we need to focus on, especially considering customer requirements. So it may be how you are going to access, where you're going
mhm,
to access. So all of these components are built in and everything is supported, especially if you take Windows 7 support.
mhm,
Now, some of the customers, they have their Windows 7 devices in their organizations, but right now, Windows 7 is end of support, of course. Now, but the thing is, with WVD, you can clearly set up Windows 7 in your environment, in a WVD environment, which is supported, and you are going to get all these enhanced security updates as well. So these are some of the features that the customer definitely will be looking at, and especially considering the COVID duration, we are unable to say, okay, COVID will end at a particular day. So it may go for another month or two. Let's hope it doesn't go. But
mhm,
companies and organizations need to plan out or phase out how they are going to run their businesses. So that's where WVD comes in because you don't need to invest heavily in this solution. just simply you go online, get a subscription, create your WVD pools or your environment, and then just try it as it is. And if you want to shut down, if you want to completely remove that environment, of course, that is possible. Which is the best part, like Ryan said, cost. Because if you're going
Right.
to invest in a total hardware solution, that is not going to help your environment at all.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that, Jude and Ryan. Now, let's just go back to something that you said earlier. You guys were talking about COVID and work from home setup, right? Now, as mentioned earlier, there has been a
Yes.
spike in security issues. Cyber criminals have really taken advantage of this pandemic to try to attack organizations. Now, how can Windows Virtual Desktop help in terms of security, especially in remote work setup? Okay, Jude, you want to take this one?
Yes. Yeah. So the first thing that we need to look at in remote working is where you're going to work. So the first thing, you will be working from home or maybe a job and space or whatever it may be. So you're not working inside your corporate network within your corporate boundaries. So whatever that is being applied to your office desktops, laptops, the security patches, the update mechanism, none of this applies when you're working from home. So that is number one. You will be working from your own device in a public location, especially your home. Now, there is a huge threat in this kind of scenario because earlier, if you're working from your organization, within your organization boundaries, you are safe. But right now, your personal computer, you can't guarantee whether it's safe or not because you have been using that personal desktop or laptop or any device for your personal matters. So if it's not secure, if it's not up to certain standards, then you are basically opening up your entire organization to this security flow. So that is the first thing we need to address in your environment. So that's where WVD comes in because you're accessing your corporate environment through either remote app mode or remote desktop mode. So one of the security advantages of this is you can have multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication gives you specifically log-on authentication where you just enter a OTP or it may be your app password or it can be your authentication app itself. So that is number one where you secure your organization in the entry level itself. And apart from that, you can have conditional access where you can tell, okay, if you have this particular device without patch updates and all, don't let this enter your organization. And if you're accessing from a different country or a geographic location, you can block them. So like that, you can have endpoint protection itself. And one other thing that I would like to mention over here is most of the customers that we see, they are using VPN. So when they're using VPN, the biggest challenge for these customers would be to run patch updates and antivirus updates.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, yes, of course, you are connecting to your corporate environment through the VPN itself. But if there's a zero-day attack, if there's a zero-day attack, of course, there will be Windows updates or application updates or security updates. So how can you securely push these updates to your desktop? That is a big problem because there may be bandwidth issues likewise.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're using WBD, your data, your Windows virtual desktop environment is in your organization itself. So all of that will be protected from the back end. It's just you are accessing it from a remote location. So this simplifies your entire security posture in terms of accessibility, authentication, and securing data in transit as well as securing data at test as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. That was a really clear explanation for that. Ryan, do you want to add your 2 cents on the matter?
Uh, I think it's not a matter about the technology or security that Jude mentioned earlier, right? We talk about parameter security, which is you need to protect something inside of the caso. The caso is mean your office, and also you have the wall to protect the caso. Is like firewall or the DMS zone, some lane in front of the caso and thing. So that is to all
Mm-hmm.
technology and also the security approach. But I want to talk and share more about the real life experience, right? So when we talk about working on site, working remotely, and working from home, so what the first thing that the people will think about, like, hey, well, the good thing is like I can spend whole day in at home, right? I can cook in something to I can do cooking uh, in the kitchen, but still join the meeting, right? I lay down on the bed and with a headset, and I can join the meeting and so on, right? So relax, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people told me like, hey, I love working from home actually, but to me it's like horrible, right?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when you get used to kind of travel, my life is on the plane, and someone is like want to getting know people, keep in touch in person, right? The
Mm-hmm.
interaction between us, like customer
Mm-hmm.
or a colleague or anyone that we met. So it's horrible. And I stick on a chair within like 8 hour or 10 hour meeting every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the change, right?
Right.
So from the culture to what you actually do with the technology, what is the change and what is helpful, what is the helpful things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when I working from home, and especially with the COVID, my laptop got some issue and problem. I cannot join the teams. I cannot join something, and especially with some limited hardware,
Mm-hmm.
so I cannot go to do something is require us to have like a heavy machine.
Right.
So when I try to use a Windows Virtual Desktop at my lab, I try to use it like to do some work on the graphic design. That
Mm-hmm.
is part of my habit, and I found out that it's wonderful because I don't need to order a new laptop or some kind of extended hardware for my PC to do it. Just a quick video kind of editing, so that make the life easier.
Right.
And why I change across the device, right? The Android,
Mm-hmm.
iOS, iPad. I love the device, but I also love to change the device. And the
Mm-hmm.
problem, the issue is like when I change the device, the file, everything is like fragmented, right? It's like the file is here. When I start it on my window, I cannot bring it to my MacBook. Yes, I sync to
Right.
OneDrive, but yeah, it's still lack of experience.
Right.
But then when I took my wife iPad, and also I tried to turn on WVD to do some quick kind of editing on my presentation, which is 180 slide.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's okay. It's bring me a good experience.
Right.
So in terms of the boring and also horrible thing, working from home, stick with the computer 8 or 9 hour, but you find something really interesting at the end user feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing change from the iPad, from the macOS, from the
Mm-hmm.
window, even things, because you still look into the same experience with the Windows 10
Right. Right.
on WBD.
Mm-hmm.
So that make me feel happier.
Right, because it's all the same across the board, right?
Right,
It's the
it's
same
all the
platform.
same.
Okay, that is really great. I think that's real life experience and really helpful for the audience to hear because we're going through that as well, right? Okay, now because of that wonderful story of Ryan, that real life experience, I think our audience would be interested to know exactly what are the main differences in experience between working on site, working from home, and using virtual desktop. So, because you were saying, because you told us an amazing story, Ryan, I'll start off with you first.
Yeah. So um, the story is like it's um it's kind of thing that I remember like back to 3 months ago, right? And I got a message from my teams about customer because I remember that at that time it's the first wave of COVID-19 in Vietnam. So they said that they have 2,000 employee, their bank, and they want to bring it to the remote work environment. They said that they don't have enough time to respond because if they order some hardware and they stop the VDI environment, it would take them like 2 weeks for setting up and 2 more weeks for kind of user adoption and things, right? And guidance for the end user to use it and so on. So we only have 1 week, 3 days for setting up and configuration
Mhm.
because you know banking, right? They have firewall, they have AD on
Mm,
premise, they have hybrid one, they have kind of compliant policy. They have
right.
if you want to do any change, it's need to go through the change management board, right?
Yeah.
There's many people, 5.4 stakeholder. So yeah, when I get that message, I think immediately about Windows Virtual Desktop and also my colleagues in APAC. So we share the same thought and we offer that to the customer and we have the partner to do some kind of testing in quick, but then we do the production pilot. Right,
Mhm.
you imagine that within a week, we turn on the environment for 100 end user,
Mhm.
and the next 2 weeks is turned to 500, and after the month it's 2000. So that's a real story about a bank with a lot of policy and also change management process respond to the COVID-19
Mhm.
immediately within 3 days, within a week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I hope that story is not just inspire you but give you a hint, give everyone a hint to think about if the next wave of COVID-19, or we human, right? We don't know what
Right.
happened next in the
Mhm.
future.
Mhm.
So give you a hint for your response plan.
Okay, that's actually really helpful, Ryan, because we don't know when exactly this pandemic's going to end. We don't know if another one is going to come. I mean, we can really only hope for the best, right? But as organizations, it's very important for us to be responsible and really be on top of things, right? Be prepared, basically, right? What about you, Jude? What is your take on this? The differences in experience between working on site, working from home, and using Windows Virtual Desktop.
Uh, Difference, of course, I don't see much of a difference because what changes is where you're accessing your office resources. That's
Mm,
about it, basically. You'll be still using your desktop or laptop. Now, the benefit of this is we have lots of choices in accessing WVD. So the main point of access would be either desktop or you can access to HTML5 web version. So these are the two options that you will be able to utilize in accessing your corporate environment through WVD. But how
mhm,
we are going to access it, it can be any of the devices, especially either Windows 7, Windows 10, your Apple
mhm,
devices, your Android devices, but it may be a tablet, it doesn't matter. So rather than going to your office and then opening up your desktop, we have more options now. So the desktop experience or the access experience is much more greater than how you're working from office. And at the same time, we have seen most of the customers, they have Windows 7 devices and their office premises. Mainly,
mhm,
main reason for that is the application that you're running in the environment doesn't support Windows 10 or Windows 8.1. Now, this is a
oh,
huge problem in terms of upgrading. But WVD
mm,
doesn't have any issues with that because WVD supports Windows 7 devices, like I mentioned
right.
earlier. with the ESU updates, extended security updates, it supports Windows Server. So you don't need to worry
Hmm.
about upgrading your environments just because you're going to virtualize environment. So it's quite
Right.
easy, and the experience is of course much more enhanced than in immersive.
Okay, awesome. And that's actually really helpful, that the fact that they don't have to update their devices, because we all know that takes a little bit of time, right? And that is really good. It's great that Windows Virtual Desktop is really flexible in that way. But let's just take a step back and discuss something that I am pretty sure a lot of organizations, if not all organizations, are thinking about right now. And that is money, right? A lot of organizations, because of this pandemic, have been smarter in terms of, how they spend their finances. So let's just talk about how exactly, or how cost effective is Windows Virtual Desktop. That's the first question. Second one, how much bandwidth does it really require to run smoothly? Do you want to take this one, Jude?
Yes, of course. So considering the cost in such a environment, now let's just imagine, okay, we have around 1,000 to 2,000 users in our environment who are right now working remotely. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to come up with a solution. I'm talking about on-premise solution. So the first thing, you need to size your environment. And after the sizing, of course, you need to purchase hardware. And purchasing hardware will obviously take probably 1 month, 2 months time to be delivered. So the cost is pretty high. You need to purchase everything, and you need to make sure that everything gets in time, or else you're in trouble. But this money, this investment that you're trying to make, will be there forever. So even after another 3 months, let's say COVID completely goes off away, in another 3 months, after that, your hardware, your environment is pretty much useless if you're not using. If you're using, of course, that doesn't matter. But if you're not utilizing that, it'll be in vain. But in WVD, we don't have that problem because we can scale up or down based on the requirement, based on the usage. Especially, we have a mechanism where we can scale down by powering down the PCs or the host pools if the users are not utilizing them. That means from the back end, since it's pay as you go model, you won't be charged for your uh, usages. So that's quite a big advantage because you're not giving away money for the entire solution in a one go. You'll
Mm-hmm.
be paying for what you're using. So that is the main and the primary advantage with a solution like this.
Okay. All right. That's really good to know that it's, cost wise, you can be quite flexible with it, right? Ryan, we'd love to hear from you on this as well.
Well, it's another kind of thing
Mhm.
when I come to the customer office, right? So not a customer, not physical come to the customer office, but they walk me a tour via like Teams, right?
Mhm.
They have a camera that's funny experience. And the first thing that I experience when I work from home. So when a customer come down to something that they try to put, yeah, their business into the defense mode, right? Not a kind of moving like attack to get new market things, right? They put into a defense mode, but they still realize that they cannot stop working, right? They cannot
Mhm.
stop working. They cannot stop manufacturing. They cannot stop the service. So
Right.
how? Right? The IT manager and the CIO came to me and asked the question about like, hey, if next week we need to work from home, what is the solution? Because we are a friend, not just a Microsoft and a customer, but friend, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So they seek for my advice, and I shared to them, it's like, how do you think about the future? What happened next?
Mhm.
So they said that maybe the COVID-19 get worse, or maybe it's gone because of vaccine, or because of we did good. So I said, okay, if you want to work from home, so what is the solution or what a need that, yeah, that you think, right? They said that, oh, it's like we need to provide secure remote work. Maybe I saw the article that Microsoft public everywhere, so it's okay. So how we provide the secure remote work? We manage the device, we manage the application and things so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the device must be company owned because of the thinking, the culture in the country, that they think about everything need to be managed. but but hey, it's not all of the employee have the manage or have the company owned device. They use their own device, right? So solution come down to the VDI, which is some offer that they got from the local hoster. So I said that if you don't know about the future, right, and you invest into something that will be fixed cost, right? You put your business on the defense mode, but
Right.
you increase the capex. So what happened next? Is it the cash flow is good? Is it look like you put something investment to solve a problem, or to create another problem to solve problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they've been thinking about it, and I said that, hey, how about you try to do some kind of POC with our partner on the WVD, and you can see, as you mentioned about like, hey, we can scale up and scale down. From the beginning, you can have a 5 or 10 user from the IT department and some critical um, persons to join, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you think it's good, you can scale, and you
Right.
just need to pay as you go. If the
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19 gone, you can turn it off. If it's got worse, right? I afraid when I said that worse, but if it got worse, so okay, you can increase the capability and also capacity along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, let's do it, right? They're rolling out. That is the things. And yes, when it's come down to any kind of conversation between the Microsoft, the partner, and the customer, they're thinking about not the price first, but about the network, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that is something that already cost them a bunch of money. That they already have the kind of network investment. They have firewall, they have switch, they have modem, right? That fixed, and also they cannot change what the network in end user house, in
Mm-hmm.
employee house, right? They cannot change it, right?
Right.
Right. So doing something and using some kind of solution that make sure the end user is not kind of need to change much on that. And the WVD depend on the work profile, the worker profile. We can have the less impact in terms of the network requirement for the end
Mm-hmm.
user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also we have worked with some ISV to bring more optimize the WVD network bandwidth to the end user also. So don't need to worry about that. We have many case all over the world and also in APAC that the customer work more than 400 user at home, and it's across APAC. So we don't have any kind of feedback, negative feedback about the bandwidth. We also share with you some network requirement on the .microsoft.com to get you aware of what need to be done. The important thing is like you need to know which type of work profile that require you to provide the service to the end user. That's it. And then everything is like more opaque, more defend, but still working on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that, Ryan and Jude. Of course, I think that really cleared it up. In terms of cost and bandwidth. I like that you, Ryan, that you made your customer think about that, like the investment that they're putting in, and this is a very flexible solution, the Windows Virtual Desktop, and as mentioned by both Jude and you, Ryan, right? Um, you can scale up, you can scale down. This is pay as you go. Setup. So when everything is back to normal, then you could just stop using the service and you're not going to be charged for it anymore, right? So that it really makes sense financially. Okay, so we've been talking about some actual cases from Ryan, right? Actual stories of real customers. But let's just talk about that more, and I think we'd love to hear from Jude as well on this. What are the best practices of companies using Windows Virtual Desktop, and how did the solution help with the current situation? So we'd love to get some more real life cases of Windows Virtual Desktop. Actually, we'll start off with Ryan, if that's okay with you, Jude.
Yeah. So that is something that also the challenge and also the good challenge, of course, about the Windows Virtual Desktop and let me think about what happened after this. Right, we talk about the solution, the cost effectiveness, and also so many things about the respawn plan, right? But we need to move forward, right? We human. We if we fall ahead, not fall back. So if you think about WVD, it's just a solution for responding to the COVID-19 or some disaster, business kind of disaster recovery thing, a backup thing. It's not just that. So we have a strategy. We call that is a cloud BC, right? So whatever you do, whatever you have on your endpoint, whatever is like really kind of light endpoint, is like a mobile device or things. We have a technology to bring up to, we call that the MSIX app attach. So what does it mean? So it's mean that you can provide the power tool software from the cloud to the endpoint, even the light endpoint, to use it, to for the end user to adopt it, wherever they are, right? So that is come down. I cannot share much detail on that cloud
Of
BC
course.
strategy,
Hmm.
but um, but it's not just a new thing. It's ongoing. Actually, we think about it like I believe that is like many years ago. I can see. So let's see and wait for more interesting thing happen in
Hmm.
the future for helping the customer to achieve more.
Hmm.
And moreover than that, the security thing is really important. Nowadays, we get away from the parameter security, which is required to have a CASO. But the CASO is you cannot replicate your CASO to your employee house, right? You cannot build up many CASO, smaller one, and how you can connect the CASO. So it's a zero trust approach we come, right?
Hmm.
And on a zero trust, we talk about identity, and identity is not just about user. It's not just about your password and username. It's about device health, device identity. It's about yes, end user identity, which is username and password, and also their behavior, right? To connect that and use the cloud technology, use the AI, we can provide the solution to protect people who working from home, regardless WVD or endpoint, right?
Hmm.
So let's think about more than just response plan. Think about a technology, a solution, a strategy that you can provide to your business because COVID is to me is an opportunity to rethink,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is from my side.
That is actually sorry, Jude. Before I go to you, I actually agree with your point there, Ryan. COVID has provided a lot of opportunities in terms of it has, I guess, restructured or like reshaped the way organization now approach solutions or approach their decisions when sorry, in terms of
Hello? Sorry, we lost you. Maybe.
Hello.
Yeah. So I think that is our turn, right? So just two of us.
Yes.
So let me take that role. So how do you think about the COVID-19 and also the best way that we can bring the WVD as a solution for the customer?
Especially now, this is going to be a big difference that's going to change how we are working in your organization.
Hmm.
So the first approach that I think as a IT solution provider, as well as the IT administrator perspective, is you need to identify the requirement.
Yeah.
So that's number one in terms of this, because uh, rather than just going for a solution and then scaling up, okay, I have like 100 VM pool, 100 VMs, and then these are the features that I'm going to roll out. That's not the best way. So the best practice would be to, number one, identify the requirement. This is where you check your network connectivity, your bandwidth analyzing. So there are Microsoft provided tools where you can do this, especially in terms of sizing your pools and then sizing the requirements, the bandwidth likewise. So that is going to be number one. After
Yeah.
that, when it comes to rollouting features, there are tons of features, especially security, not just complex security, basic security like allowing copy-paste features, clipboard access, feature redirection, likewise. So you need to identify profiles itself where you will be checking with your users whether these users meet this requirement. So if that's the
Mm-hmm.
case, you can directly create separate pool segments. For example, marketing may need a different set of VMs, and if there is a graphic
Yes.
design team, of course, they need high computing power. So you need to identify these gaps and these requirements first. So this will completely give you the overall picture of end to end where you need to where you will be able to size and then deploy. After that, you can gradually roll out whatever the features that you have, especially in security. Take patch updating, and then endpoint protection, security center is there. So these are the additional features that you will be getting. You'll be able to load up your solution with. So the best practice from my point of view would be to, number one, analyze your environment, talk to us, check what is the requirement, and then slowly and gradually roll out whatever the features that you have. So you know what you have in your environment and you have total control of it rather than just deploying everything. And there might be cases where you know what to do because it can be complex.
Hmm.
Right. Thank you for that, Jude. And how about you? Well, it's correct, right? So we actually need to just some points. We need to identify the requirements and roll out features in order for us to really maximize the usage of this Windows Virtual Desktop once we have it, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So on to the next question, actually. Or sorry, before we move forward, do you have anything to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, so if I need to say one thing, it's about like think about identity first,
Right.
right? Because I know a lot of the customer or the partner right now is still working on an on-premise identity or even a legacy one, which is kind of not support kind of modern authentication and security. So think about identity first and choose the right WVD profile for your end user, and then you good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. And so we're actually down to the last question for this discussion, right? So, what do you think actually for the best practices, right? So you've mentioned that it's very important to identify requirements, roll out features, and to prioritize identity, right? So actually, we have a question from the audience, but we now have Ara. So over to you, Ara. Yes, hi. Thank you very much, Clarice and Ryan and Jude. Really sorry we experienced some technical difficulties, but we're back. And as Clarice mentioned, we actually have one question coming in from the audience. It actually came from our YouTube channel. So this question comes from Tech Enthusiast. How can we use FS logics for user profile in WVD? It should be remote user profile when individual user login WVD. He or she will see only his or her user profile. Okay, so do we understand that question? Jude, Ryan, do you guys who wants to answer that first?
Is it okay if I
Yeah,
pick it up?
Okay, of course, yes.
And of course,
yeah,
Ryan can jump in.
sure,
Now,
sure.
FX logics, of course. If you don't think about this FX logics profile container, that's what we call it. The concept behind this is when you have a VM running in the background, you either have a personal virtualized machine or else it's going to be coming up with a pool. So when you're using your VM through a pool, then that's going to be a new VM, or you may be using an old one, but it's going to change every time that you try to log in. So there's no consistency in where you're connecting. The problem with this is, since you'll be getting a new environment all the time, whatever that you save is going to be there. So that's where FS Logic's profile containers come up with, where you can simplify this entire profile mechanism with a VHDX. So the architecture behind this is you create a FS Logic profile container. You can give permissions to your administrators where they can, of course, create the folders, necessary folders, and then user profiles are there. And then each of the user profiles will get attached to this specific VM that it's going to be booting up with. So the objective is the user will have his or her own profile, my desktop, my downloads, likewise, whatever the folder that he or she wants to have, the specific container. This is an advantage because specifically in previous solutions, there were some problems when it comes to Outlook cache mode. There were issues where it doesn't load up properly because if your OST file is too large, there were issues. And of course, OneDrive, because we are natively supporting Office 365 apps. So Office 365 apps, of course, comes with OneDrive. And right now, we don't have to worry about it because OneDrive will be installed, and then your data will, of course, be there in this specific logic profile container. That is something similar to the app attach as well. Not the same concept, but in general, you have specific applications attached to your specific profile, just like this. You have your profile, Windows profile attached directly only to you. So none of the other users will be able to see that. It's just you will be seeing your content, and whatever additional folders that you want to create, you can create that as well. And if you
Okay.
want to add something,
All right. Thank you for that, Jude. Ryan, do you want to chime in on this question from our audience?
Yeah, so for the AVAC logic, so you when you have the WVD, so you get access to AVAC logic technology. So before Microsoft owned this technology, so it's like have a cost with that, but yes, it's now with WVD, no kind of money that you need to put in that podcast right now, right?
Mhm.
And the reason why we bring it into the WVD because of the support for the Office cache, Outlook cache, support for the Windows search, and also support for the user profile management, right? If you're familiar with the VDI, so we have a UDP profile for long term, right? And it's also bring up the problem of the time to load the profile when you log into the VDI, and also if you're running some kind of graphic design tool, or the profile become larger and larger when you use it, so it's gonna problem and it's not compatible when it's come down to the office, especially if the customer they have to use the office in many version of it, like 2010 or 2016, and also Office 365. So yes, we can use it, And in terms of the profile management perspective, you can do some configuration to make sure that when they log on, they only see what belong to them, right?
Mm. Mhm.
So we now extended the support for Epic Logic profile store on the NetApp file or a file server extended or the Azure file storage, and also authentication via the Azure AD or the AD on-premise one. So it's really kind of good technology that we can bring in to bring not just about the profile management, but also bring the experience and also security, because we're talking about maybe you using Oracle, right? You need to use a version of Java, and we
Mm.
have provided Java redirection for in the FX Logic technology also.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that answer, Ryan. Now, we have another question from the audience. This one comes from Facebook from Nico Magalona. The question is, do I need to pay twice for my desktop operating system if I currently have an open volume licensing agreement with Microsoft on my physical workstation? So, Ryan, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So come down to the for you to understand more, not just about they for your OS. So in terms of the pricing, we have three things that you need to consider, right? The first thing is about the licensing perspective, which is the Windows 10. Right? Windows 10, you need to have the Windows 10 Enterprise, or you need to have the Windows 10 VDA, which is the virtual licensing to help you to connect the Windows 10 to the VDI environment. That is something is not changed. That is the requirement for the OS, or for if you have the M365, which is Microsoft 365, including with the Azure, including with the Windows Enterprise, is good. And the second part of the pricing of WVD pricing is about the Azure price, right? The VM hospital on it, the network, the storage, sorry. And the last thing is about the bandwidth, the network. So when the data transfer into the Azure, you not get any kind of charge. But the network, when they go outside from the hospital, from the section host to someone else, it's going to be charged. Especially with the small amount of Office 365 service, it's also a network charge, but it's slightly kind of not kind of expensive. It's just like single penny per hour.
Mm, okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that answer, Ryan. Now we have another question coming in from the audience, and I think this could be our last one. It's from Facebook from Antonio Salindato, and the question is, how long does migration to WVD is from planning to implementation? Jude, do you want to take this one?
Yep. So, like I mentioned earlier, the first part that you need to do is analyze your environment and then get the requirements. Especially if you have workloads that you need to migrate to WVD, then probably will take some time because you will be migrating your workloads from your on-premise environment to WVD environment. So timeline-wise, since we don't engage with any of the hardware or rather your big complex environment modifications, which is quite less. So, like I mentioned, first of all, whatever you need to migrate, you need to plan it down, and then you can go ahead with the users who are not using heavily, which doesn't need to migrate. You can plan on that and creating all the images that you require to be migrated. That comes in the second phase. And then, lastly, you can completely migrate your entire solutions that you want to the WD environment. So timeline wise, it will probably take weeks, definitely not months, like to implement a total on-premise solution. If you are going fresh, then of course it could be days. If you're migrating, then it may take some time depending on the workload that you are migrating, and of course the bandwidth, everything else.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that, Jude. Ryan, do you want to add something to this?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say about no different between the end user experience. So the migration is not a good not a right term for this. So it's not migration, but it's standard, right? Because of the profile and of store on the cloud, and also the end user file maybe sync to OneDrive and Outlook also. So from the planning to implementation, um, in the section I mentioned about the customer, right, the banking and also the other customer, when they don't have enough time even to think, right? The planning, actually at Microsoft, we public some kind of guidance I can share with the community later, but I public on a GitHub, so you can actually come and sit down with a customer, get their information about something that we have already provided on the guidance, and we finish the planning within the 3 hour for 100 user scale. And it's not just a one-stop shop. It's like not just about like spin up a solution and it's already there. Even Microsoft, we provide the WVD management service to you, right? So depend on the complexity of the customer environment in terms of security, compliance, storage, and other specific requirements. So the planning will be like within 3 hour, within a week. And from the implementation to the planning, so if you have specifics and also detail planning with all the question cover, and nothing happen or nothing surprise about the customer environmental requirement, and plus the network or the customer need to build up the VPN side to side or express route, the implementation can happen within next 3 hour, and it's up and run for ready for 100 user as quick as possible. It's like within 3 days.
Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you for that timeline. Actually, that's really helpful. Okay. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have left. If you have other questions that we have yet to answer, feel free to drop them in here or send them to Aliana at tech1global.com and we'll get to them. But before we go, we'd like to talk about virtual desktop as a service. It's the flagship service of TechOne's remote service solution. We encourage you to email Aliana at tech1global.com for a free consultation. And that's it. Thank you very much, Ryan and Jude, for joining us. And thank you to our audience for tuning in as well. We hope you enjoyed this talk, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Good day. Bye.
Bye.